Welcome to Going Off Subject, a Jones College radio and TV production in association with Free State Records. I am your host, the Bronze Voice, Ollie Hammonds. In studio today with me, helping cast that bronze voice over your speakers, our producers TJ and Landon. And our very special guest in studio as well with me today is Coach Jonathan Parker, assistant coach with the baseball team. Coach Parker, thank you so much for coming in.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
All right, so we always have a customary first question. The first question is, where'd you grow up? What was your sports? What'd you like to do as a kid?
Yeah, so I'm a New Orleans native. I'm an uptown New Orleans guy. I know Coach Stig was on this podcast earlier. But I'm actually from the city. I went to Brother Martin High School, Catholic school down in New Orleans. I actually played all sports in high school, baseball, football, basketball, until my junior year, and then I gave up basketball, decided it was hindering my baseball career. But growing up, I did all of it. I even played soccer, got asked to play the all season soccer league and stuff, and I realized I was like, no, that's going to take away from baseball. It's going to take away from football. That ain't for me. But once I got to high school, I tried out a football team, didn't really know how good I was. Made the 8th grade team. My parents were surprised. I was surprised. Ended up doing pretty well at linebacker, and then baseball, that 8th grade summer, I actually made varsity for our Legion team. And that was kind of like a blessing in disguise. I was like, man, maybe I am decent at baseball. Basketball team, same thing. That 8th grade year, tried out. I had no idea what I was doing. And I went out there. I took a couple charges. And if you go look back at the tryout day, any person who took a charge that day made the team 8th grade year. And, that was just me playing defense. And that was what I was good at in basketball. Moving on, and then I kept playing all 3 sports. Football, I was actually a all-district selection my sophomore year. Senior year as well, got an injury my junior year, and going back and look at the stats of baseball-wise, I think that's what hindered me in baseball. My injuries, being decent at football really took away from my work in baseball and stuff. And then actually after graduating, or right before graduation, I was like, man, I'm going to play football out of high school. I love football. That was my A1 day one. And then I got a call from Jones, and the rest is history, I guess.
So it really wasn't that baseball was like your first choice. It's just that's what you were, as we can tell, through that story, you're hindered in the athletic department. You're not that athletic. You just go out there and that's clearly a joke. But so was it just that you were better at baseball, and that's just kind of how you moved into the sport of baseball?
So baseball is really my day one sport. My grandpa actually played for the Red Sox back in the day. My uncle played for the Brewers. My dad never played, but my mom was athletic a little bit. My sister actually played at LSU for volleyball. And then my oldest sister actually played softball at Mount Carmel in New Orleans as well, and she was a stud athlete. So we have a really chain length of athletes in the family. But baseball, I knew I wanted to play baseball at the next level. But if you look at stats-wise, I don't think I should have. My junior year, I hit 167. Was no good, but I caught every single day. I was in the 5-hole, I think, my junior year. And then my senior year, I was in the 4-hole, hit 200. And I had 3 homers, 1 the first game, 2 the second game. I never hit another homer. I don't know why I was still in that 4-hole, but, I just kept pushing, kept grinding. And then when that offer came from Jones, in reality, I was like, what is Jones? I have no idea what junior college baseball is in Mississippi. I knew Delgado. I knew Southeastern. I knew LSU, obviously. But my dream school really was Southeastern, to play baseball there. Got a couple offers for football, for walk-on spots and stuff like that from ULL, Tulane, Southeastern, Nichols. And I couldn't have the urge to say yes. I think maybe because that idea of baseball was in the back of my head. And really the only thing that stood out when Jones called was they had a hitting facility. And that was my biggest dream, because at the time, Nichols, I wanted to go do both. I wanted to go walk on at both at Nichols. They didn't have a hitting facility. They had an outdoor cage. Ooh. And at the time, I was like,
back in Little League,
100%. And I'm like, how am I going to put the work in? And I was telling the story last night on the bus ride coming home. I said my biggest dream was to have a hitting facility in the next level, whatever that means. And then when I stepped foot on campus at Jones, funny story, my grandpa actually took a visit before I took a visit down here. So they were in Diamond Head at the time. We got a call from Coach Kirkland about coming down. And I would say probably 2 days later, he showed up on campus. So y'all recruit my grandson or what? Like, I need to see what this place is. Never heard of it. I need to check out, make sure this is the right place. And he actually got a full tour from Coach Creel and Coach Kirkland that day. So it was pretty cool. And when I stepped on campus,
you knew it.
I think it took maybe a day and a half for me to commit and make the decision to come here.
So back to your high school career, were you always a catcher? Were you the kid that played everywhere, and just were you the for lack of a better term, spastic kid that had to be involved in every play and play catcher? I mean, how did you get to that position?
So growing up, I was actually shortstop and pitcher. When I was 12 years old, we were combining our 12-year-old team at Carrollton Playground, and our coach's son was also a shortstop. And not knocking that or anything like that, because I was 100% in. I was like, if you need me to catch, I'll catch.
Yeah.
And, ever since that day, it was just kind of, it hit. I was in every play. I was understanding the game more. I was about
to say, I know there's two types of baseball players out there. Those who hate catching and those who love it. I'm in the hate category. I tried it one practice. It was the worst 30 minutes of my life. But you clearly are the one that loved it.
I loved it. Loved every bit of it. I loved the grind. I love the idea of me touching the baseball almost every pitch. I love the interactions with the umpires, as we were talking earlier. I just love being a part of the game that way. And it makes the game slow down so much. Even with the hitting side, like it does take away from hitting 100% because you have to know your role.
It's a completely different job from everything else.
100%.
I mean, you take a leadership. You're automatically thrust into a leadership role. I mean, it's almost instant. So
100%. And you can even look at our guys right now. You'll see Gatlin Sanders in center field right now, and he will take practice swings in center field. If you ever see a catcher taking practice swings, something is seriously wrong. They're not focused on their job. 100%, like they are mentally not strong enough because they are focusing on the pitch before, or they're focusing on a bat that happened 2 innings ago.
Yeah.
Some guys in the field, you're able to do that because you can take a deep breath in between pitches.
Yeah.
You don't have to look at a watch now and see what pitch is coming. You don't have to give a call. You don't have to give bunt Ds. You don't have to know the circumstances on the base runners at first base, second base, and the idea of the game, the score, all that stuff. So
you feel like an old man every once in a while. I say, back in my day, we used to have to flash the fingers down.
I do, but I miss it. I really do because
you miss the fingers?
I do. So when I played at Jones, actually, when our pitchers were on the mound, nobody on base at the start of the game, we would do sequences. And it was an idea, it was a mental thing to slow him down. He had to actually look at every pitch. Because you'll see some back in the day, there you go. Back in the day, you'll flash a 1 down and the pitcher already started his windup. And it was the quick tempo, but it was also not the understanding of what's going on. What pitch are we throwing? How are we throwing it? Well, hey, let's do second sign the whole game. So you flash in a couple numbers, he's actually got to look at all of them. And you're slowing the pitcher down yourself. You can speed him up. You can only give 2 signs. You can give 7 signs, whatever that idea is. But that really is to slow him down. And I'll never forget Logan Robbins one time, who pitched here. One day I went out there and I forgot to give multiple signs and stuff. He stepped off the rubber. First pitch of the game. First pitch of the game, stepped off. He's like, "What are you doing?" And he threw his hands up at me. I was like, "My bad. You're right. My fault." So I started going and then it was very successful. And I don't know, maybe it was a mental thing. Maybe it wasn't a mental thing. Maybe it was just superstitions. I don't know. But
no, baseball players are not superstitious at all.
Not at all.
Not even close.
Not at all. So not the fact that we have to work out before every single game as coaches. Nope. It doesn't change at all once you become a coaching role.
You can't change it.
Doesn't change even as a parent either, because my mother and my grandpa, when my uncle was playing minor league baseball, they'll tell the story to everybody. He was playing minor league ball. They were in their basement. They were painting a wall. I'm not kidding.
I can see where this
swear
is
on
going.
everything. Painting a wall. He goes up there. He's a homer.
Uh-oh.
The next day, they have a game wherever they are.
Now.
They painted that same wall for 5 days in a row. The same wall. And he hit a homer 4 out of the 5 days. It was unbelievable. Unbelievable story. They got after it. They did what they had to do, and they called him and said, "Hey, we painted this wall blue," or whatever the color was. And he goes, "Well, make sure y'all paint that wall blue again, okay?"
That's hilarious. So you come on campus. What's your first impression of Jones? Because Coach Thigpen said the same thing. In Louisiana, JUCO sports is just not really a thing. Mm-hmm. Mississippi, it's huge. It's massive. Yep. And also very competitive. So what's your first thought when you come on a junior college campus?
Yeah, 100%. My idea more so was me being a city boy. So Stig came from Luling, which is kind of, in the bayou a little bit. He was driving a truck already. I was driving a Highlander. And when I graduated, after I committed, I came down here for orientation, I guess, and there was some souped up trucks.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what am I getting myself into?
It was a completely different world.
There's only one red light in Ellisville, Mississippi.
Yeah.
One red light. And if you look deeper,
most people are angry that it's there.
100%. And I used to actually think, until here recently, probably 3 years ago, when I met my wife, because I now know where she's from, which is down in Ellisville, deep Ellisville. I thought Ellisville was just downtown. That's all I thought it was. I thought that was the city, just downtown. And me coming here, it was a culture shock.
Yeah.
They were fishing, they were hunting, they were running the roads, they were going mud riding. I didn't even know what mud riding was. My mud riding consisted of my Highlander almost peeling out on a puddle on the interstate.
Oh, man.
Houses in the deep Ellisville, you can't even see your neighbor.
Yeah.
At my house, you can spit on my neighbor's house.
Yeah.
And you can my parents would yell at us, and our neighbors would text, "Are y'all okay?" Like, that's the difference with culture shock. And then when you add in the baseball, I knew baseball was going to be good. Didn't really know how good. My first day on campus, I wasn't overly confident at myself. I was just trying to get away from home, see what I could do. Didn't know anything. All I knew was they had a catcher that was an All-American the year before. And on my visit, I said, well, why am I here? Why do y'all want me to come catch when you have an All-American catcher? Mm-hmm. And they said, no. And his name is Mason Irby. Long-time guy here. He went to Southern Miss and played. But they word for word told me he's not a catcher. And I turned back around. This is the personality I had. I was like, you're right. He's an All-American catcher. And they're like, no, JP, don't worry about it. He will not catch on this team next year if you come here. And I said, okay, sounds good. And then my closing remarks for that, are we going to win a championship? And they said, yeah, we will. And so when I got here, I'm in the cages the first day, and somebody comes up to me, don't even know, it might have been Dalton Kittrell. He was an armed force and never pitched. But he was like, I heard you got a bazooka. And I'm like, no, I don't think so. Not really. And then that first day of BP, I was like, wow, this is serious. We were hammering balls off center field wall. Eric Horde, Tanner Huddleston, not really knowing who those guys were at the time. They were grown men,
Yeah.
We were some grown men on the field that year. And then I'll never forget first day of bunt plays. We had bunt D. And in high school, bunt D is usually horrible because you have players bunting and you can't get bunts down. Coaches either throwing or pitchers are throwing. It usually either in my high school at least, it ended or you just ran and ended at the same time. We got through that segment and I'm like, this is college baseball.
Yeah.
It wasn't. At the time, we didn't even think it was junior college baseball. We thought it was college baseball. We thought we were the top dogs, and we knew it, and we played like it too, though. So, we had a great coaching staff that year with Coach Ostrander in the fall. He ended up leaving us after that fall, but. It was something special those 2 years I was here.
Yeah. So, you're a young kid still. You probably aren't really thinking all that much about your current place where you are, but how much did you were you guys so confident you were like, oh, we're winning it? Or was it like, oh my gosh, it's actually happening? Was it kind of surprising you? Nobody was going to say anything about it? Or was it like, oh, it's going to happen?
So I'll tell you, when we were in the fall, we played at Smith Wills in a fall game, and we tied against Hines, I believe. I think it was Hines and maybe even East Miss. I think we lost to East Miss. So our fall, this was opening fall game. Mm-hmm. When we lost to East Miss that next game, we got in the locker room of Smith Wills, and I've never seen a coach do what he did. And he came in, Coach Ostrander, threw a bucket of balls, threw bats, and just went berserk and was like, y'all think y'all are good? Well, y'all just lost to two of the worst teams in the league. And at the time, they weren't. 100% were not the worst two teams in the league. They were pretty decent teams, but we just weren't ready to play. We didn't really care about the fall. And us having that as freshmen, it was a weird situation because we had a lot of freshmen on the team. Sophomores.
Yeah, that was why that team was so impressive.
100%.
A bunch of young kids.
The sophomores knew, okay, these guys are going to help us a lot, but we have to guide them a little bit too. And those sophomores, they kind of understood. They were hitting, they were pitching, but us freshmen, it was this is just a fall game. Nobody cared about this game. Nobody's here. And And after that day, I think we actually understood the idea of what this league's going to be, like how it's going to be every single day, especially when we go against our conference opponents. You got to come to play every single day no matter what. But I don't think we changed the idea in that fall because we still went – I think we only won one game that fall, tied 2 and lost 4, I guess.
Oh, my.
And but then we go into spring and – we were hitting.
Oh, man.
We were pitching. Our pitchers wouldn't lose.
They refused.
They really would. Our starting arms, I believe, if I'm not wrong, for 2 years went undefeated. So that's either 8-0. That was 10-0. Add that times 2 or double that. That's 18-0 for 2 years. It's tough. But that freshman year, man, we were rolling. We played really good baseball. We never took a day off, and that was the idea. Like some teams beat us 100%. I lied. We did take one day off. We had already won the state championship basically, and that was actually at the time where we still had a state championship, state tournament. To go into a regional. But we had won the conference, and we go down to Meridian the last game of the year. We were just like, let's go play baseball, take it easy today. And I think if you go back and look at the numbers, if we win those 2 games, we actually break the record for most wins in junior college in a season. So because we were 54-9, I think it would end up being 56. We might have won maybe one more game. I think that number was 56. So if we would have won 57 that year. And then actually, so we go into a regional. We go into a state tournament here. We host it. And East Central had an arm with goggles. We used to call them goggles. And I'm not kidding, go look at the numbers. We would 10-run rule them every single time. But in playoffs, you don't have the 10-run rule system.
You gotta play out.
We would go into the 8th. They'd score 2 or 3, 4. And the 9th, they'd come back. And they would score 7. And we're like, what is going on? Well, you go back and look. Goggles was on the mound. We couldn't score against them. We could not hit them. So they ended up beating us here at home. And I think that was a little motivation. When they beat us here at home, we were like, okay, we got to go to their regional. So we came in second in the state championship that year. We go to their place for the regional. First game, we win against Eunice. And me being a New Orleans guy, we're playing LSU Eunice. And I'm like, man, I guess we'll see how good we are, And we beat them pretty good. Well, then the next day we play East Central again for game 2 of that regional. They beat us. And a lot of guys on the team will tell you, we were playing Eunice the next day. We're like, man, that's it. Like, we had a good run this year. We'll get them next year and all. A couple guys might have packed up their trucks, on that team, like whatever. And going back to the superstition. So we go down 8-2 in the 3rd inning against Eunice the next day. And we talked about this earlier, me being outspoken to the umpires. Fastball down the middle, he calls ball. I throw it back. He's like, hey, JP, did I miss that? And I'm like, yeah, but I understand, And he goes, no, it's okay. Strike the next 3 out. We go up, get bases loaded. Still no really energy. We're down 8-2 in the 4th inning. John Allen Wall hits a grand slam. And it was like electric. So we're like, okay. And I believe Tyler Springs in the game. He hadn't pitched much all year. Like, he was more of a closer role for us. He goes 6 innings, complete, no runs, no walks, like nothing. And John Allen Wall ends up hitting another 2-run homer. So that was our sophomore DH, and he was like, I ain't done. I'm not done playing baseball. He had he did have dreams and aspirations to go play the next level, but he was more focused on going to Mississippi State or just finishing his idea of what baseball was, And so we ended up beating Eunice, knocked them out the regional, and we get back to the dorms, going back to superstitions. We packed it all back up again. We took all of the couches out. The guys who did it, we took the couches out, the futons out. We put them all back in the trucks.
Oh, my God.
And we packed up like, yeah, well, we won today, and we had the same mentality, same idea. Next game, we win. Then we play East Central in the championship. We had to beat them twice, I believe. And first game, skull drug them. Like, no, not night and day. It was unbelievable.
And at that point, it's like, well, we ain't losing game 2.
That's right. And our biggest MVP of the year, I believe, in my eyes, was TJ House. He came in. He hadn't pitched all year long at all. And he comes in and goes 8 complete innings, shutout game. And then, I think we put up 9 maybe. So it was 9-0 ball game. And that was the only game we beat East Central in a playoff format, but we never had the 10-run rule idea. So we never got to 10-0. We never got to 15-5, like stuff like that. It was 9-0. So we knew we had to finish the game, right?
Yeah.
And then that championship game came, and I think we beat them 9-7. So it was pretty amazing winning that regional. I was dead tired. Then we go to the World Series, and World Series was unbelievable. The ride there, horrible, terrible, unbelievably bad. It's 18 hours on a bus ride.
Yeah.
You're stopping halfway. We luckily stopped halfway, stayed in a hotel. We get there, we go practice there. I'll never forget. So I was actually the only catcher at the time, really. We had one catcher. He quit in the fall, and then we had another one. He actually ended up quitting game 6 of the year. So I called every single game. So when we get to Enid, Oklahoma.
Hold on, let's talk about that just for a second. There's a lot of double headers in JUCO baseball.
Oh yeah.
That means you're catching what? 9 + 7 would be, I can't do math, 16.
Mm-hmm.
You're catching 16 innings a day,
Mm-hmm.
and then
100%.
turn around you do that on Tuesday, you turn around, you do that again on Thursday, and then you turn around and do that again on Saturday, then you turn around and do that, and then it's all started over again. That is insane.
It was unbelievable.
Especially for a 60-game-plus schedule in the regular season.
Yep.
Not to mention the playoffs and then the World Series. I don't think people realize how big of a deal that is. I mean, even pro catchers in a week probably don't catch that many innings.
100%.
That's crazy.
100%. And I will credit our offense to helping me out a lot.
They gave you a
and
little bit
pitching
of
staff.
rest between innings.
Not the innings. The idea of us 10-0 teams that year.
Oh.
We probably 10, whether it was a 7, what was it, a 7th in the 9 inning game, whether it was the 8th in the 9 inning game, that's still one extra inning that I didn't have to catch.
Yeah.
You know, in the 7 inning game, that's back when I don't have that any rule anymore. But in a 7 inning game, it would be 10 after 5. Some games we went 5. So, and huge job by our pitchers, shut down innings every single time. Huge job by our offense, you know, scoring a bunch of runs. And actually at the time too, I didn't have to run bases. But I'll never forget that first time I had to catch both games. It was, let's say it was a Monday, our catcher quits. Tuesday we play at Baton Rouge, and that's a Division I JUCO.
Yeah.
So I had to run bases.
Oh, no.
But I'm also going against my home team, right?
Oh, yeah, you didn't want to get taken out.
Did not want to get taken out. Coach Creel comes up to me. He goes, hey, I need you to be a little cautious hitting wise. Like, be okay not running bases too hard because you're going to be your first day running bases 1 and 2 catching both games, and it's going to be hot.
Did you listen?
No, not at all. I believe
I knew
I
that
want to
was
say
the
I
answer.
went like 2 for 3 the first game, and the second game I went like maybe 1 for 2 with a couple of walks.
Yeah.
So I was on base a lot, and I was tired. I was drained, and
Man, that guy don't know what he's talking about. That was the best sleep of your life.
that's
that night.
right. I wanted all of it, but yeah, moving forward. When I got to Enid, Oklahoma, you know, when we go to practice, I couldn't squat. I could not squat. My legs were locked up. I couldn't walk. I was nervous. I didn't know what was going on. My body was just shutting down. I was like, Creel, Kurt, something's wrong. Coach Allen was there, like something's seriously wrong with me, and they're like, just relax, take your time. Like, I was on the bus for 18 hours total, you know, and I slept for 7 hours the night before in a hotel room. Well, thankfully, I stretched a little bit. I ran a couple sprints, and it all went away. I hope that never happens to me ever again because I was really nervous. And because, you know, looking down the line, the other catcher we had was Irby. He hadn't caught all year.
Yeah.
He caught the year before.
You were it.
And that was it. And we had an unbelievable bullpen catcher who, Cam McCarty. If it wasn't for him, I don't think our team would have made it. From off the field stuff to bullpens to ball and dirt to all the things that.
Talk about that. So that's a role that's kind of a phantom role in baseball. You don't ever really see them. You don't, you know, nobody talks about them ever. Talk about what is that role? Tell the listeners, I guess.
The bullpen catching role in our level is a little different. You know, his idea of it, the Cameron McCarty kid that we had, it was his role. He was 100% that. He wasn't even on the roster, really. You know, he wasn't on the legitimate on paper roster. Was he a part of the team? 1,000%. He even made sunflower seeds for us. You know, like he made his own brand of Cam Spitz. That's what he called it. And he made them at his house. He flavored them up. He brought them to practice one day, and that's the kind of guy he was. You know, he was just trying to be there for our guys. But the bullpen catching role is awesome. You know, as far as every single day, if you only have 2 catchers, us coaches, we're going to really tender to them. We're going to put them in a bubble, you know?
Yeah.
We're not going to let them do the extra work that they might need to get better, but because they're getting so many game reps, you know? And we can't even – Coach Stig's a pitcher coach. He loves those dummies that sit in the bullpen, to have an idea of having batters in the box.
Yeah.
Those balls bounce off of them guys and hit us catchers all the time, every single time. And that's not what I'm willing to do for my catchers. I didn't want to do it as a catcher. I didn't want to sit back there with them dummies. So having a bullpen catcher role, it's huge for the pitching staff because it's a guy that not so much that they do know the game, but it's almost like, hey, you're amazing. You're an amazing pitcher.
Yeah.
Those catchers, they're amazing. Like, y'all are doing stuff that I could never do.
Yeah.
Y'all dominate. And it takes you back a little bit, And
Just having fun being there.
100%. Cameron Carty, every time I would strike out, he'd come in the dugout, give me a hug, and he'd be like, I love you, dude. You're the best catcher I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, thanks, Cam. Appreciate it. Give him a hug back, and it was cool. So
can we keep this guy around?
100%. And I still talk to him all the time. Funny story. His wife now was my wife's roommate in college. So it was pretty crazy how that all ended up coming back to play.
So you talk about the offense doing a lot for you, but if I'm not mistaken, I saw here on your bio, you hit 384 as a sophomore.
I did.
That's nothing to sneeze at in the game of baseball, especially whenever you're balancing the control of a pitching staff. So here's my other question to you. How much control did you have over game calling? How much control did you have over pitchers and things like that?
So my freshman year, it was, we were very hand-to-hand as far as understanding the game, us pitchers and catchers. Coach Kurt would call the pitches, but like sometimes when they would shake, it was 100% I knew exactly what they would go to, and that was the idea of it. We knew an idea.
Did you ever have a moment where he called a pitcher like, please shake, please shake, please shake?
No, not the form of that, because I knew our stuff was so much better. Our arms that year, those 2 years, were so much better than the talent that we were facing. Yeah. Whether that's being cocky, whether that's being confident, you make the choice.
You won a national championship. I think there's results to back it.
Right, and I think a lot of people will tell you the same thing. We had 90-mile-an-hour arms back then when that wasn't really a thing, Yeah. And now we have a lefty that's throwing 95. We have a righty throwing 95. Back then, you had maybe one on a team.
Well, Coach Thigpen, I was talking to him, and he wasn't on the squad, but he knew about the squad.
Yes.
Like him talking about that national championship team. He said, the whole conference knew, and these guys are some studs.
100%. And it was both. Like, it was everything. We had a shortstop that made every play. Unbelievable shortstop. We had left fielder, center fielder, right fielder, all of it. I want to say every single person on that team, other than our second baseman, Clinton Sasser, ended up playing at the next level, at the Division I level.
Wow.
And our second baseman had offers to Mississippi College, had an offer to FIU, I believe, and I'm still really close friends with him. But he wanted to go down the medical field, and he wanted to go get his degree that way. And everybody knew, like, you're good. And he was a 5'10", 5'9", little short second baseman, but he was a dirtbag, and he was everything we needed. We had some big donkeys on that team that could hit. We had a Fred Franklin in center field that could fly. I think Clint Sasser ended up the season with like 34 stolen bases, maybe.
Whoa.
It was pretty impressive, and he broke his thumb in a no reason game, sliding into first base, to keep the season. To keep the inning going, and that's the kind of player he was. He didn't care. He didn't get taken out the game. He didn't do anything. And then he actually had to sit out for 2 games after that, but because of the broken thumb.
Yeah.
But then he was back ready to go for that team. So we won the national championship. But that next year, we went 44-2. We choked in the regional, but it's okay. Nobody talks about that anymore other than me and Thig every single day. But going back to your pitch calling and stuff, and ideas of that year we had a rule, and Thig came on board with us as our pitching coach, and it was unbelievable the ideas he had for our guys. I think he'll tell you a little bit on the side. He was told kind of when he got the job, he was like, "Hey, hands off, let them do their thing."
That sounds like Coach Thigpen.
but he really did impact a lot of our guys, and I'm not kidding. We had the idea, and it was the same idea as the year before. Shake if you want to shake, throw the pitch you're good at throwing and that you want, because if you're confident in that pitch, throw it.
That's a lot of how coaching, I think, over the years has changed. It's changed more from it's a system to it's people.
Right.
And it's what you're confident in. It's what you're good at. It's different for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So you end your career at Jones, very good player at Jones, Where'd you go next? After
Went
that?
to Louisiana Tech. We had 7 of us go to Louisiana Tech from
Whoa,
that
so
team.
it's another Jones College over
That's
there.
right. We had 7 go to Louisiana Tech, and we had 6 go to Southern Miss. And they were both in Conference USA at the time.
Yeah.
So it was a huge rivalry as far as that idea. But
How cool was it playing them for the first time?
it was awesome. You know, I was at Tech, I was really only catching Saturdays. So Friday night, we beat Nick Sandlin, their Friday night guy. It was his first and only loss of the year. He ended up getting drafted by the Indians.
Yeah.
But we had a little tip on him, pitching tip. So our hitters bought in. We had a freshman right fielder, a freshman second baseman that hit some balls I don't think they would have hit if they didn't know the tip was there. And that Saturday they got us back. So Logan Robbins, I guess you want to call it a battery for me. I would catch him every Saturday, and he actually did not lose a college baseball game until that Southern Miss series.
Until that one,
and it was pretty impressive. We had an interview about it down here in Mississippi. 2 nights before the game. We had an interview at Tech the week before, and it was kind of leading into the idea, like you talk about something, right? You don't talk about no hitters. You don't talk about that during the game. And you don't talk about not losing a college baseball game. And he did. They put it to us that Saturday game, but then we came back and beat them on that Sunday. So we got a little upper hedge on them. But it was good seeing, the whole field was covered with Jones guys. From right field to first base to a couple arms for Southern Miss. For us at Tech, we had third baseman Tanner Huddleston. We had left fielder Shelton Wallace. Myself, we had Logan Robbins. We had Ben Stiglitz, another arm. We had a shortstop, Dalton Skelton. It was loaded with Jones guys, and it was pretty cool to see.
So you transferred from a JUCO. You obviously won a national championship. I mean, the next year your offensive numbers were better. The team was probably it sounds like in your eyes, almost better than the national championship team. The national championship team just kind of put it across the finish line. Mm-hmm. You transfer to a D1 college. Mm-hmm. What's the reception for you as a guy from JUCO? Is it this guy's from JUCO or this guy's legit? Let's treat him, like a veteran that he is. I mean, what was your reception there?
So at that time, Tech and Southern Miss both really were JUCO heavy. So when we got into Tech, it was the new branch of JUCO guys. So 2 years prior to that, they did the exact same thing with the Hines team. That was pretty good. That Jones and Hines went back and forth in 2014 and 2015. That 14 team at Hines beat Jones in the regional and went to the World Series or whatever. They didn't win it or anything like that, but 6 of those guys went to Tech. So when we stepped in, the freshmen, sophomore, seniors, they were like, okay. They're here.
They knew it.
Yep.
I mean, it was
they did the exact same thing as 2 years ago. So, and that was the biggest mental curve for us. When we came in, we wanted to run the place, but also we had to understand like this is a different branch of ball.
Yeah.
We had to figure out here what we have to do every single day to be better at the Division I level. What kind of arms are we facing? What kind of hitters are we facing as far as pitcher and catcher idea? But it really got into the idea where I think we all became kind of more successful was, hey, we're juniors. We're not freshmen. Yeah. We're not coming into a new league. Yeah. Like we had to take that out of our brains. Now Burroughs, he was Lane Burroughs was really heavy on that for us as far as he said, I remember the first weekend we play SIUE. We win Friday, win Saturday, lose Sunday. And he says, this is not Coahoma, this is not Mississippi Delta, this is not Meridian, this is not East Central. We're not playing junior college teams anymore. We're playing Division I teams. And we all like, oh, you're right. We are. Like all their guys are Division I baseball players, no matter what team they are. Mm-hmm. They're still Division I baseball players, and we have to treat it like that every single day. So, but yeah, it was a great ride over there at Tech. I actually transferred to Southeastern my senior year.
That must have been pretty cool for you.
It was awesome, and like I said, that was my dream school. Growing up, mainly because one of my best friends was going there. He committed there as a sophomore, but. It was in end of the year, my grades weren't the greatest. Me and school are not friends. Tech is a really hard school. They do trimesters. So that means like a 9-week course no matter what. So if you don't pass that first test, you're in the back burners, and you're looking for the next major to try to get eligible, basically. And that's kind of how I was at Tech. Was I smart about it? No, not at all. But me and school never have been friends. I tried the master's program now, and it still, we're not friends. I did what I had to do to graduate, and that was mainly because I made the move to go to Southeastern. During that summer, I was playing summer ball in Kentucky. I stayed there for 6 days, and I got a call from Coach Reiser, and he's like, "Hey, I want to get you down on a visit. I heard you left Tech. I want to see where your ideas are and everything. I don't know if you'll be eligible because of the transfer, but I really want to get you down to come check out everything and see what we have to offer." And I was like, "Okay, sounds good." Flew home the next day and went down there and fell in love with the idea. My parents and we all had done our homework a little bit on me being eligible. As far as the transfer, back in the day, there was no transfer, one-time transfer, but I ended up getting there and had pretty decent job hitting wise. I DH'd a lot, but it was awesome. It was a great time. I wouldn't change anything.
Yeah. So you get done with playing, and you go with Coach West down in Gulf Coast.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about how did you two get hooked up again? And I mean, what was it like transferring from a guy who was your coach, who you had to answer to now? I mean, you still do, but now you're both coaches.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what was that kind of like?
So I graduated from Southeastern, and I'm at home. I got a dog, and I'm just hanging out. And this is a funny story. My dog's actual name is Jones Bobcat Atticus. I'm not kidding. It's on his papers. My parents named him that only because he's from Oklahoma. We actually flew to get him in Oklahoma, brought him back. So his official name, legal name, is Jones Bobcats Atticus.
That's hilarious.
That's how much I love Jones. If you can't tell. But so going in that summer, I was hanging out with my dog, not really knowing what I'm doing. Like I just graduated. I don't know how I graduated, but I'm excited. I'm off the wall. Like, no school no more. And I actually got a couple of high school job offerings as far as Brother Martin, De La Salle, doing both football and baseball. And I was about to take it. 100% was about to take it. And I don't know, something in me, I decided, I was like, let me call Jones. Let's see what they're doing, see if they need a guy or see what I can do for them. So I called him, and I called Coach Kirk, and I guess he put me on speakerphone. And I was like, "Hey, Coach Kirk, I need a favor. Like, I'm looking to get into coaching and all." And he's like, 100%. Come down on Wednesday. And this is on a Monday. He's like, "Come down on Wednesday, and we'll put you in a GA role." Tuesday afternoon comes. He calls me back. He's like, "Hey, man, like, we're not actually going to be able to do a GA role, but I'll give you some numbers in our league, and maybe you can go there." I was like, "Okay." So I call high school coach, and I'm like, "Hey, probably going to make a decision to come to y'all at De La Salle, and I'll probably give you a call Friday." He goes, "Sounds good." Thursday, I get a call from Thig, and he's like, "What's up, JP?" And I'm like, "What's up, coach? How you doing?" Like, "What's up?" And he goes, "Well, I was on the phone with you the other day," and I was like, "No, you weren't."
You were?
And he said, "You were on speakerphone, and Coach Kirk told us that you were looking for a GA role. And I just want to let you know, next week I'm probably going to get the head coach job at Mississippi Gulf Coast." And I was like, "Man, that's awesome."
Yeah.
And he goes, "Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And you're my first call. I want to hire you, like, if you're still interested." And I was like, "Coach, I have no idea what Mississippi Gulf Coast is, but I'm all in. Where is it? Like, what is it? Where is it? What are we doing?" Like, I'm telling you, like, still in the back of my mind, I had no idea what Mississippi Junior College really was at the time still, because all I knew was Jones. That's it. When I played here, I didn't know who we were playing, didn't know the teams we were playing, didn't know what city I was in.
Yeah.
And we go down to Perkinston, Mississippi, and I was like, "Coach, this is here?"
Yeah.
Like, and you look at the facilities, it's pretty nice over there. And we had never, actually, going back looking at it, we had never played there. So they were building that stadium.
Oh, wow.
When we were playing.
I didn't think about that.
We played at William Carey that freshman year, and the second year they came to our place. So we never got the opportunity to even play at school. Yeah. And I honestly had no idea what the school was. But man, it was, when he called, he offered me that job. I think it might have took a day. It might have took 4 hours, and me and Thig's relationship, when he was a coach to me, I really understood who he was and how he coached, and it was everything that I guess I believed as well. And I really didn't know it at the time back then, but it was 100% the best opportunity I could have ever taken.
Yeah.
And he told me on the phone, he's like, "You're destined to coach.
Yeah.
That's your future, and I see it, and I saw it when you were a player. And I want to be on the journey with you."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "No, coach, I'll be on the journey with you."
Yeah.
You know. So yeah, we got to Gulf Coast, and it was cool. It was awesome.
Sounds like it was the perfect thing. Just one knock. I mean, you had to be a Gulf Coast Bulldog.
That's right.
Ugh.
Yeah, I mean, you know, no knock to them. You know, that they're good.
What are you talking about? All knocks. That's Mississippi Gulf Coast we're talking about. I mean, come on.
Yeah, but it was good. It was good to see another side of the league. In that idea, and I think we both had our aspirations to come back.
Yeah,
we just didn't know when.
So when he does come back, I mean, are you like, oh, you didn't think twice? I mean, I'm going with Thigpen to Jones. I mean, is that how that went? I was the last call he made when we were at Gulf Coast to come back here. Oh, because he knew.
He knew.
The
I'm not kidding. He never used to. So I was young. I was like 21, 22.
Yeah.
He called me at 6 a.m. on a Saturday, and I'll never forget it. And
were you awake at 6
a.m.
on a Saturday?
But he called me, and I don't know why. If there was a camera in my room, if I was on a live feed or whatever, the word for word I said is, "Where we going, coach?" And,
you just knew.
And he said, "What?" And I was like, "Where are we going?" And he said, "Jones just called. I'm going to take the head coach job. You coming?" And I said, "I'm packing my shoes now. Let's go." And I'm not kidding. We went that day. We came on campus that day.
Really?
And it was a no-brainer. And then the next day, the next day is when he started me and Cody Livingston, our other assistant coach. We edged the field. We cut the grass at Gulf Coast. We edged the field. We did all the maintenance.
Yeah.
I didn't know he knew about it. I didn't know anything that he knew, and he didn't know if I knew. So we didn't talk about it. So we just put our head down and kept working.
Yeah.
And Monday morning, this was on Sunday. So Monday morning, Thig calls and it's like, "What are y'all doing? Why are y'all at the field? Let's go. Like, y'all come over to Jones." And we're like, "Oh." I was like, "Cody, you knew about this?" And he goes, "Yeah, I was waiting for you to tell me something." But he was almost not indecisive, but he didn't really know his future either because he was an older guy. Like, he was ready to make the step, possibly being the head coach there. Mm-hmm. And we had a really good recruiting class that year. Yeah. He did a really good job that year. And it was hard. It was hard for him to leave those guys back.
I'm sure it was.
I would say the same thing, but I was more of a player's coach as far as players we had on that team. I didn't do much recruiting that year, so I knew
you
a couple.
Have a relationship with the players.
The incoming guys and stuff like that. So, so that's why it was kind of easy for me to let go. And I knew my home. I knew where I wanted to be, and that's what Cody said when he finally did make the decision to come for us for a month. Yeah. He was like, "I really want to understand what this Jones family's like." And I swear, and he came that first month, and all he did was work summer ball games, but he got to know every single administration. He got to know a lot of teachers. He got to know a lot of people in this family that we all call, because it is a family, and he still to this day will tell you, like, "I understand why y'all wanted to go back. I understand why y'all talked about it every single day over there at Gulf Coast and stuff like that." Because all we did was talk about Jones. We talked about losing when we were in the regional at Jones. We talked about why we lost, how we lost, because we shook. So, but it was
just stayed with you.
Yep, 100%.
So you come here to Jones with Coach Thigpen, and you're the hitting coach and that kind of stuff. So now we're going to get into the technical baseball conversation. This is where we nerd out.
Yep.
You get a new recruit in from high school. How much are you involved in recruiting here at Jones? Are you involved much?
Yeah, 100%. So 100%. When we moved to Jones, I was now full time. The year before that, at Christmas, I became full time. Yeah. Still, like I said, wasn't doing much recruiting, but I was full time as far as money wise. Get to Jones, and it was like, "Hey, it's time to work. It's time to get some high school guys, get the brand of baseball we need here." Yeah. And it was awesome. It was actually the biggest step, I guess, in my career was the recruiting side of things, because I was scared to death to talk to kids. They were 8 years younger than me. That's not much, It's a 16-year-old kid, and I'm 24, and I'm like, "Man, how am I supposed to talk to this kid?" Well, it was just like, "Hey, dude, what's up?" And it started growing on me, and started the idea of like, "Hey, how do I build relationships with these kids?" And then I realized, hey, I just got to talk to them like a normal person. Yeah. And I think that's what has helped me a lot, and maybe helped with our recruiting a lot too. I'll say some dumb stuff. I remember I told one kid, look at those ducks up there. and they were geese. You know, and me being from New Orleans, they looked at me like, "What are you talking about?" And
Coach
then,
Parker, what are you?
yep. And then we would go in the cages, and I would explore about baseball. You know, I would just let it all out. And they say, "Okay, he don't know nothing about ducks, but he does know something about baseball." So
yeah. So you get a kid from high school. I mean, obviously you got to change. You have to change because, you know, high 80s, 90s is kind of like a woo in high school, and now at JUCO now, I mean you ain't throwing that. You aren't playing you aren't pitching JUCO.
Right.
So how much do you have to change kids' approach and mechanics? Like what's the biggest thing you have to change? Their approach or their mechanics first?
I think the approach is number one. Okay. The idea of what's coming. You know, having an idea about college baseball. Hey, you will get a 1-1 breaking ball after 2 fastballs. You know, you'll get a breaking ball in the dirt and get another one right down the middle. But my biggest philosophy is dominate a heater. If you can't anticipate a heater, their bread and butter, we will win. We will be successful. You know,
be better at their best.
100%.
Pretty much.
If you can be, and fastball is the straightest pitch, right? It's the easiest one to hit.
Yeah.
Allegedly, it's the easiest pitch to hit.
No pitch is easy for
I
me.
don't care how hard it is, though. Like in reality, it's still a fastball. You know, you can time it up.
You get the head of the bat out on it.
100%. And you know, it's just the idea of starting points as far as the off speeds come. In high school, you'll see a lot of kids chase. You'll see a lot of kids swinging outside the zone. Arguably, it's not their fault because arguably the umpires widen the zones. Correct? Like,
oh my God.
100. And I tell our recruits this all the time. Junior college umpires are the same high school umpires, just with a different hat.
They're your favorite. I mean, you love them and they love you. They're awesome to you.
Yes,
you're awesome to them.
We are very passionate to each other. We are, and but that's the thing. Like the way I do it is more of a, you know, I tell them straightforward, and they know it from day one. A1. Like I'm gonna walk up to him and say, "Hey, that's not a strike. Hey, that he's out. Like he's out. Like it's not even close." And he's like, "Well, you know, I had him safe, and it's a judgment call." And I'm like, "Yeah, but your judgment was wrong.
Your judgment was wrong."
And you know, you can't throw anybody out like that, right? I mean, I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean,
you see these MLB coaches getting thrown out, college coaches getting thrown out. They're going crazy.
Yeah,
they're losing their mind, all this stuff, getting the fans involved, like showing them outspoken stuff. And when you personally talk to them, it gets deeper.
A little bit it gets deeper. Has more of an effect.
Yep.
So you talking about approach, Brady Thomas. So getting a broadcast, being behind and watching games and that kind of stuff. Brady's average early on in the year just really wasn't. He just could not get it going with the hits. And then I would scroll on his stats, and his on base was insane.
Yep.
I started going, well, what's going on here? And I started noticing after about the 5th game at home. You know, I started noticing he's taking walks. There's a walk. There's a walk. I mean, I think I even said it on the broadcast. He was like 1 for 1 with like 3 walks. And I was like, well, that's a Brady Thomas day. And you go look at his walks. He's got an insane amount of walks. He leads the team in walks. His on base is insane. And then I started noticing he had the 2-homer game. Then he starts hitting doubles. Then his approach got him to where he is in this part of the season. And that's just a testament to you. I mean, his approach is one of the best, I think, on the team. Watching him, how he approaches an at-bat. He just stays within his plan.
Yeah.
And how do you develop? Is a plan just – it's not. So I'm just going to throw up a soft toss to you. Is a plan cookie cutter for everyone, or how do you develop an individual plan for these hitters?
It's 100%, like we talked about earlier, it's whatever you're best at. You know, if you're Hayes Carley, he's a fastball hitter. He can't really hit a breaking ball. You have to hit a fastball. Yeah. If the breaking ball, 3 strikes in a row, go in the dugout and get ready for the fastball next at bat, right? But Brady Thomas, you know, I don't take any credit to that. I take it to him. The only thing I will say that we did maybe possibly was explore his game, you know. So he actually was a transfer from Meridian. When he was at Meridian, he tells us like, hey, he wanted me to be a home run hitter. I'm not a home run hitter. In high school, he had a week of 6 home runs in 1 week. He didn't hit another home run the rest of the year. But everybody portrayed him as a 6'6" home run hitter.
He's got pop, but I mean, he does. He is a.
But it's on accident, right?
Yeah.
If he forces it, then you'll see the K numbers go.
Yeah.
But we talked about this the other day, actually. I believe Brady Thomas could be an SEC type of player.
I do too.
Offensively and pitching wise.
Defensive
wise, no, not a doubt. He's a Trey Morgan from LSU. He is a difference maker at first base. If you go add up all the runs he's saved at first base by picking a ball, by chesting a ball up, all the above, It's unbelievable. But him offensively, he doesn't have the strength numbers right. He doesn't have the 25 homers.
Yeah.
But his strike zone awareness is unbelievable. And if he was at a Division I level this year, I don't know if he even takes the bat off his shoulder because he gets walked every single time.
He does.
Because in our league, when the strike zone expands a little bit for winning by a lot, we saw it the other day, Game 2 against East Miss, the strike zone was astronomical. It was huge, you know? And that's just something you have to play with in junior college. You have to understand that. And is it their fault? Maybe. Is it our fault? I don't know. Like, I don't know what the cause is, what the idea is, but in reality, you have to adjust to the game. And Brady does an unbelievable job of that. He'll fight off a pitch that's 4 feet off the plate because he knew it was called strike to the guy before us, you know? And then he's a big joker too. So I don't know if they're still scared of the home run number, so they kind of pitch him a little different.
Listen, I can't remember who we were playing recently. He got a hold of one. Like he can pop it.
That's right. Was that when you got tricked on the right fielder?
Oh my God, yeah. The right fielder starts patting his glove. I'm like, well, he hit it hard, but I guess it's just a floater.
Hey, I was right behind you too. I was staring at the right fielder like, Brady, what are you doing? Run. Like he's catching that.
All I could think about was the pitcher. If I were the pitcher, I'd be so pissed in that moment. You got to read that better. I mean, and hitters like, you got Gatlin Sanders going to state. You got guys like that. I mean, that guy. Watching him last year, he was insane. This year, I feel like him and Colton got off to – I haven't seen hitters get off to that big of a start since I can't remember when. I mean, and they just have continued that. And talk about Colton. Colton gets a little bit of an injury. He can't really play defense but can hit. I mean, how have you kept him focused – that way to keep producing offensively like he has through the injury?
Yeah, I think it actually helps him out a little bit by being in the dugout, you know, and seeing pitch by pitch from the dugout side of things.
Reading the game almost.
Right, and it's really hard to do that, you know, especially at the shortstop position. Shortstop and catching position is really hard to go into the DH role because you're a part of the game so much, and then you get taken out of it.
Now
and
you've
you're
been
just
reduced
hitting.
to at most 4 times.
Right, so your mind is the biggest mental block, right? Because you're thinking about your at-bat for a whole 2 innings, and you're not even worried about taking a ground ball. You're not even worried about anything like that. But I think it helps him a lot. And you know, there's a big, like, it's a big question mark, right? He swings at the first pitch a lot, and you'll see it.
Yeah.
He swings at it a lot, but it's his pitch, you know, and he calls it a cookie. Well, I told him at one point, I was like, you better eat the cookie then. Don't just put it in the microwave to get it warm.
Yeah.
Like, because that's what you're doing. You're foul and tipping it. You're hitting a pop-up to the second baseman, whatever that is.
Smack it.
Hit it.
Yeah.
Eat the cookie.
Yeah.
And that's one thing, like, me and him, like, we go back and forth because he's actually a Louisiana Tech transfer.
Yeah.
So his biggest problem.
You two Cajuns.
That's right. Well, he's actually from Brandon, so he's a Mississippian. But his biggest issue was the strike zone because at Division I level, it's so tight. Because it is a square.
Yeah, he's used to that.
And when it gets outside the square, he'll tell me. Like, he'll be like, Coach, that's 2 balls out. 2 balls out's a strike, bro. Like, you gotta hit that. And then Gatlin,
and
you know,
you're great about cutting umpire slack. I mean, you understand their situation too. You're amazing at that.
Yep. The best is when I give signs and start yelling. That's when nobody knows who I'm yelling at. I'm giving signs and just like, that's not a strike. It never will be a strike. As I'm touching, giving nothing, giving no signs. That's not a strike. Yeah. Scott, that's not a strike.
Yeah, I noticed that I had to take a couple pictures at the game the other day, and I'm down the third baseline, and I'm just listening to you. I'm like, wow, he does a lot more talking than I actually thought he did.
Yeah, I'm very, very outspoken. And,
you
know, the visiting dugout usually gets a laugh out of me sometimes. So, or it's the same. You know, we're looking at each other like, that's not a strike.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, we know. It's horrible.
Yeah. So another question I got about the current team is Austin Mills has had to step into that shortstop role, and he's been making play after play. That guy's an athlete and switch hitter and all that kind of stuff. So how big has that been a luxury for you as coaches? At one of the biggest positions on the field, you lose your starter, but that's fine because we got Austin. I mean, how big has that been?
Austin coming in, we knew he was going to be defensively sound. He defensively was, you know, arguably better than better than Hegwood. But the offensive numbers were different, you know, and in high school he switched hit, I think, till his sophomore year, and then didn't switch hit junior and senior year.
Oh,
so
wow.
He was just right-handed.
So how'd you get him back into that?
And let him do it. Just like literally let him do it. And, you know, right-handed in high school, he would bunt every time. He would show a bunt, first pitch, no matter what. And I had to get that out of him because I'm like, hey, like, You don't have to do that every time.
Yeah.
If you're going to show bunt, you're going to put it on the ground and you're going to be safe. But if you don't want to bunt, if you don't think it's the right opportunity, don't even show it, you know? And, but when he first got here, we were like, hey, 100%, we're going to hit left-handed too. Like, we're going to put that in your game. We're going to see what's going. And he's been, you know, mechanically, I think he's one of the guys we probably touched a lot as far as trying to get him mechanically sound both sides, because there was a little gap as far as success, as far as
that's a big. I mean, my sophomore year, I thought I could try it out, and so I'd switch hit my junior year and my senior year. That is a hard thing. You almost have to practice to get back into the swing or into it with a lefty swing. You got to almost practice twice as much as you do with your right-handed swing. I mean,
100%.
That's crazy. And that goes back to the workload.
Yep.
So workload, how much do you have these guys hitting a week? I mean, you got some people like Joe Madden who, you know, you hear him talk about his philosophy and how he doesn't really like on-field BP half the time. He feels like it's eyewash. And you got some people that are like, hit every hour of the day. I mean, where do you lie on that?
I believe if you hit, you'll hit. And we have actually a sign that says that.
Whoever hits the most hits the most. Yeah, I've seen it. My dad, every time I used to go hit there, he's like, you see that?
Yep.
And
And
I was like, but Dad, I can't hit my 188 average.
100%. I'm a big believer in that, you know, and it's the but it also goes back to the work, you know, the grind of it all, not just hitting, not just the actually putting the ball in the machine and hitting. It's going back to what we were good at, what we were bad at, what's the small things that we need to touch on here and there. But we always say it, you know, you'll get your feel good on the field a little bit. We like to challenge them a lot, you know, but when it comes that day of feel good, it's time to go, you know. But I would say when you're on your own, it's really trying to fine tune things, trying to figure out what's feeling different here, what's feeling different there, where are my hands at, where are my feet at, how is my posture and stuff like that. And like Gatlin Sanders, he's a guy that goes in the cages every single night, from 8 o'clock till 10 o'clock. You know, I don't even know what the curfew is to be in the cages. I hope it's none, because he would have tons of tickets. So don't quote me on that on this podcast. But a guy like him, he hits so much that he's a guy that you need to take away from the mechanic side, right? So it's more of, hey, find your small successes. If you're hitting the ball up the middle every single time for a line drive and BP, we're having a great day. You know, well, he's a guy. Well, why can't I hit the ball over the fence every single time? Because that's not your game. You know, it'll come. You just have to keep pushing. You have to keep working. And he's like, okay. Well, after about a month, he's still asking questions. Okay, let's work on this. Well, then he realizes that's a mechanic. I'm teaching him a mechanic.
Yeah.
He doesn't like it. And so then we go back to square one. We're like, and he's like, okay, sounds good. I appreciate it. We're right. You're right. You were right 4 months ago. We're good. Yeah. But then like a guy like Mills, is different. Mills needs to see a lot of success. You know, he needs to feel what he's doing, and everybody's different in that matter, right? If Mills gets jammed in BP, it's like the world's over. You know, and you gotta fight that back. And a lot of people are like that. A bunch of guys on our team are like that, and you got to pull that back. You got to be like, hey. But your body was in a great position. Yeah. You know, find that success, that positive. Just because you were off timing doesn't mean everything was a failure. Yeah. Right? And in game too, like BP is not about outcomes. BP is about feel good as far as your body, not as far as hitting homers every single time, as far as your body being in the right spot at all times. So
that's a difference in baseball from every other sport, I feel like. I feel like as a basketball player, I can go out there and shoot all day, and if I have a terrible shooting day, I did something wrong. Right. Like there's no, my form was still good, everything, it just wasn't going in. No, I did something wrong.
Yep, 100%.
Much the same with football and that kind of baseball. You can have a 0 for 4 day and ground out to the second baseman every time weekly, and you did everything pretty much right. You stay within your game plan. You just missed a pitch, but your mechanic, there's nothing to change. Right. That's what I mean. Like there's nothing to change from that game.
100% correct. And even in like football, you'll do something wrong and you'll shoestring tackle somebody. Yeah. Right. You do something wrong in baseball,
you're out.
It's a grand slam or you're out. Yeah. Like you did something wrong and everybody knows about it. Yeah. You know, football, you'll get your ankles broken and the guy behind you will lay somebody out. Yeah. Here you get your ankles broken. That's an error. Yeah. That's a man on base. The next pitch is a homer. That's a 2-run homer instead of solo homer. Yeah. That's 2 runs. Either game's over or they're up 2.
I just got 2 more questions. My last one is, how much do you let the guys look at their stats? Because you got some guys with some pretty good stats, but how much do you guys are like, yep?
I mean, so first of all, in reality, they have their phones. They can look them
Oh,
up
yeah,
whenever
I
they
mean-
want, But we actually just started this year really focusing on quality at bats. And we have a game inside the game. We had to put that into play for our guys because we do have talent offensively, but it doesn't show up sometimes, right? Which is baseball, and they can't understand that. They're like, "What, Gatlin Sanders? Why am I not hitting 800 right now?" Well, you're not going to. You really physically will not do it. So we started doing quality at bats, and that's
just to talk about that.
Yeah.
I've sit with people sometimes at the games. And they're like, "Why did he take that pitch?
Mm-hmm.
Why did he take that?" It's a different. It's a
a
different game
inside the game.
It's a different game. You've got to win every moment, and
100%.
that doesn't mean hitting a homer.
Right.
It doesn't mean getting a base hit.
Right.
You can have a fantastic at bat. You struck out. But if you look in the box score, you're like, he struck out. It wasn't a good at bat. Well, he went 3-2 and saw 6 pitches.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good AB,
100%,
honestly.
100%. And that has really grown our team, and it's all parts of the game. If you look at hitting wise, if you get walked, if you get hit by pitch, you get an 8 pitch at bat and move the ball and play. Well, that's 8 pitches that the pitcher had to throw. The next guy got to see 8 pitches on deck. Stuff like that.
That's something that's not thought about either.
No, and usually that after a long at bat, go look at the numbers. I would say off my head, it's probably 9 out of 10 times it's going to be a fastball right down the middle next pitch, for the next guy.
Yeah.
Because
He's
they
trying to
want to
get
get out as soon as possible, and you flip it to the pitching side of things, the exact same thing. You don't have to get 20 strikeouts a game. If you get 20 strikeouts a game, that's 60 pitches you are throwing on 3 pitch strikeouts no matter what.
Yeah.
Right? Doesn't happen a lot.
No.
So you're adding 4 or 5 pitches to every single at bat for every single strikeout. You go watch you see Kumar Rocker when he was at Vandy, when he had the 19 strikeout day. He was up to 117 pitches, right?
I'm a big Cubs fan.
Yeah.
2019, Kyle Hendricks in April, complete game against the Cardinals. He had 3 strikeouts.
Yep, 100%.
And the guy had 88 pitches. That is probably the best pitching performance I've ever seen.
Unbelievable. Like, it's a game inside the game.
Yeah.
How can we get him out as soon as possible?
Yeah.
Defensively, why would we not make a throw on a diving play with a runner on first base? We dive in the 6 hole, shortstop makes it. We full arm fake. Why would you not try to let it out?
Yeah.
Well, because if you overthrow that, they score.
There's a run.
And that's a run.
Yeah.
And now we're at first and second with their 8 hole up to bat. We win. That's a strikeout all day. And that's 9 hole up, strikeout all day. Quality at bats has really helped our guys as far as not even worrying about stats. And we have a 50% mark where we have to make it. If we get 50% so far, we've been undefeated in the game, in the actual game. So a game inside the game, if we go 50% in quality at bats as a team, we are 100% winning the ball game.
Yeah.
Last night, first game, we lost. We were 38%.
Oh.
And we came back and tied them in the 9th inning. Should we have won the game? No. Because of the game inside the game, we did not perform offensively what we've been doing all year long that has had so much success. Game 2, we were 78%.
Yeah.
We beat them by a lot of runs.
Well, it's funny because my dad's worked here for a decade now. That's crazy for me to think about. It's just I haven't thought about it much until recently. I'm like, wow, I've been around Jones for a decade now. And I talk to kids that are in my same grade group. I'm like, you ever been to a Jones football game? They're like, no, this was the first year I ever went to one. Or, have you ever been to a baseball? No. I've been coming to these sporting events for years, and I've kept up with the teams for years. This is one of the best baseball teams I've seen in probably since that national championship team. This is a really good team. You look at the record, they're really good. I mean, how's it feeling for you as a guy who has experienced success?
Yeah.
Watching these guys, you're like, you guys have got the potential. You guys can do it.
On paper, 100%, we are the team, to beat 100% of the time. I just have to get everything out of them every single time, and I'm not saying it's a hard thing to do because they know what we're playing for.
Yeah.
They know every idea of what we're playing for. We've had a lot of success across the board, and it starts with our starting arms. Those starting arms that we've had so far, we've only had one hiccup, and it was against East Central in a best of 3. We're in the 3rd inning or 4th inning of the East Central game. They go drag, walk, run and hit, double, drag down the line to hit the base.
Yeah, and that's not a slouch team either.
Right. But it was a small ball game in 1 inning that we just let get uncontrollable.
Unravel.
But if you go look at the numbers wise after that, we still added runs. So it was a 6-0 ball game, and we added runs, and then it was a 8-7 ball game going into the 7th inning. Well, now we're down to We had to expand an arm because of the idea of what we had earlier in the game. We had 2 in the bullpen ready to go. Well, then they score 4. And then the next guy comes in, he gives up 2. So, like, the competitiveness that we have amongst our group is unbelievable.
Yeah.
As far as the offensive side and the defensive side. Offensive side, every single inning, if you hear me in the dugout, if you put a mic on me all game long.
I don't think we should do that. But.
No, I don't think so either. But every single inning, I'll go, hey, get that run back.
Yeah.
And we'll have some guys, mainly on our pitching staff, that'll look up at the board like, Coach, they didn't score, And our hitters are like, 100%, you're right. Let's get that run back. Get that run back.
It's just a different mentality.
Because we're so good at scoring after somebody scores. If you go look at the stats, like, we are 100% so good at answering back.
Yeah.
And that's just grit. That's just the grind. That's just the mentality that they have is getting the leadoff guy on, getting a second, and scoring on a double.
Well, you've got the other thing about this team is, I know we're probably going way too long here, but the other thing about this team is when you look at it, you got a lot of guys that would be considered Mr. Consistency.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Gat, Evan, Rogers, you got Brady Thomas, you got, all these guys either defensively or offensively or on the mound or behind the plate. Cole Manuel, we were talking about Cole Manuel's defense. Cole Manuel this year has been insane. The catching staff, I talk about it on the broadcast all the time. It's like it's a plug and play position, and whoever you put in there is some of the best catchers in the conference.
Yep.
It's a consistent team, and that as a coach has got to be a great luxury.
100%. From 1 to 9, all of our guys have been very consistent as far as doing their role, playing their role. Like I said, Hayes Carly hits fastballs.
That's his role.
Jacob McCall, he hits balls past the second base and shortstop. That's what he does. If he tries to do bigger and more than that, he gets out. And you can see it. He gears up for a heater, and he gets jammed and stays before second base. He gets extended really long, and it's a fly ball to left, and he's out. But if he stays with his nice, easy mental approach and stuff like that, our catching staff, me being a catcher, I'm very proud of them because offensive numbers here in the past couple of years, we haven't had the offensive numbers our catchers have. And it's just amazing that we get to put whoever we want behind the plate at the time. Who's pitching, who's better at catching who. We even have Jay Slott on the bench right now that could possibly be in that role, but the ideas of them 3 taking off, it really hurts him a little bit. But I still believe Jay Slott caught last night. We did take a big lead, but it's still the confidence I have in him whenever he goes out there. I think Jay Slott could be our number 2 catcher.
Yeah.
But the other 3 have been taken off and they're still rolling. So, but Evan Rogers too, he's been clutch. He's our 4-hole Raj now.
Yeah.
He had a rough day yesterday, but hey, it's baseball. He'll be back.
His RBI numbers are eye-popping.
It's not even close. He's about 20 RBIs higher than everybody on the team. So I'm very proud of him. Him coming back from a medical red shirt last year. He started off very slow in last year's season. I think it was a little too big for him. And then he got bigger. And that was the biggest goal he had all summer, all fall, was to get as big as possible. Well, as far as weight-wise, he was 143 last year.
Ooh.
So now he's 170, 175. Starting the year, he's 180. It honestly is a huge jump for him, and you can see by his success.
He's a smooth player, too.
Love him.
Defensive, offensive. The way he approached that bat. We need to get out of here.
Yeah.
Coach Parker, I usually have people in here, and I say, how's Jones helped you? Well, it's helped my family a lot. We have a good time here. This is probably going to be the longest answer to this question. How has Jones bettered your career and your life?
Jones has changed my life 100% for the better. Even for faith, for family, for my wife, my family at home, my dog. Like I said earlier, like my whole family bleeds Jones now. Like we have Jones in our bones. I know not many people say that anymore, but we do have Jones in our bones. And Ellisville, Mississippi is 100% a home. I always wanted to come back. That's my dream. And my aspirations were just to be back here and give everything they gave to me. And that's my biggest goal. I hope I can change this place more for the better every single day. I don't know. It's a dream come true to be here. I legitimately love this place. I love everything about it. I love our president. I love our athletic director. I love Doc Kane, who was our athletic director,
Yeah.
and just seeing the success around the board. I believe this place is still Wintersville. I know Coach Mueller always says he still tweets Wintersville because he believes it. He saw it from the outside when we were winning. And I still take credit to that, from those 2 years of being here, from us, from softball, from football. We were really good that second year. Basketball men's, we were amazing. We won the MAC championship. The women's team was, they were good, but they were still in the upcoming. And that 2018 team, they dominated. And that's when the growth really came. And tennis team, they win all the time. The golf team, we're coming back. We just got a new golf team. We're getting volleyball, soccer team, unbelievable. And that's what I love about it. And me being a coach here and me playing here, we supported each other. And that's what we're trying to get back to reality is Jones, is getting that family atmosphere back as far as team camaraderie to each other. We would compete against softball every single year. We went 18-0 to start the year off. They went 17-1. They lost their first game before we lost our first game. We were ecstatic. That was the game inside the game. As a player, we were talking about that every day. We're with them every day. We're in study hall with each other, and being a part of it on the outside of things, being a coach here, nothing's changed as far as the atmosphere, the liveliness, the love for everybody. I'm very fortunate to be here.
Well, Coach Parker, thank you so much for coming in. It's been a pleasure.
Appreciate you, Ali.
It's been fun.
You're doing a great job, by the way.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Well, you've been listening to Going Off Subject, a Jones College radio and TV production in association with Free State Records. Of course, at the controls today were TJ and Landon, and we'll catch you next time.